Well, my friends, it has been yet another intriguing week with a few unexpected turns. What has happened here and why the change in direction all of a sudden? Outside of all that, we have a nice collection of great updates to share, so let's do this.
Okay, Niall, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hey, Marcus House with you here, and plot twist this week with Ship 37 preparing to launch on Flight 10. Last week, of course, it was all about these unique static fires, which were certainly a first for Starbase. At Pad 1, it had successfully fired all 6 of its engines on that makeshift stand. SpaceX released this slow motion footage at the start of the week from a camera looking upward from one of the launch mount legs. You can just make out the clamps extended there now using the adapted stand with those rapidly completed updates. As expected, it was soon ready to roll out because on Saturday afternoon, soon after our video had gone live, SpaceX was removing that ship quick disconnect plate from the vehicle. Rather than the regular automated quick disconnect system, as a reminder, this is just a slapped together temporary solution to test out the final Block 2 ships, Ship 37 coming up for Flight 10 and Ship 38 to launch on Flight 11, assuming all goes to plan. The team disconnected the umbilicals and prepared to lift it off Pad 1. Sure enough, later that evening, here it was being lifted from the stand by the arms and down it came onto that transport stand which had arrived earlier that day. Overnight, it left the launch complex and was moved into Mega Bay 2 and lifted onto one of the workstations. On Sunday, they were already removing that adapter stand that had been modified from a transport stand. So, perfect, right? Now we just needed to run through the usual process before the ship could roll out for the full stack to fly. Well, not so fast it seems. Here was that adapter stand arriving at the production site soon after, and SpaceX had even started to reinstall the regular booster clamps onto the launch mount. Everything seemed like Ship 37 had a good static fire right until it didn't. They must have found some issue the deeper they got into that static fire data, or maybe even after the ship came back for closer inspections. That's because not even a full day after the adapter stand had arrived back at the build site, it was rolling straight back out to Pad 1 again. Thanks to Lab Padre's Rover 1 camera, we could see Raptor vacuum engine number 514 being moved out from Mega Bay 2 where Ship 37 was, and a new one was soon moving in. As far as we can tell, nothing else was moved or swapped, so the assumption was that SpaceX had had some sort of issue on just that one engine. It's speculative, of course, but the situation is intriguing. For SpaceX to see the initial data on the static fire, take it all the way back to the build site, and then later realise that the engine needed to be swapped out, the issue that they've picked up must be something quite subtle. On Tuesday, the crane at the launch site already had the adapter stand back in the air. Jack with NSF was there to catch the action and it was reinstalled. If you look carefully at the bottom of this stand, you can see the 20 adapter blocks now welded to it so that it perfectly interfaces with the booster hold down arms. Now, SpaceX had also already started to disconnect some of the pipes from the makeshift ship quick disconnect interface on top of the booster quick disconnect. Well, that obviously needed to be reinstalled again. Thankfully, they hadn't yet removed most of it, so they had it reinstalled in just hours. So yes, anyway, given the mention of a flight mid-August a week earlier, it seems like we're going to be waiting just a little longer. Even on Friday, as we were still waiting on an update on a rollout closure, it was still inside Mega Bay 2 at the front left workstation next to Ship 38. Speaking of Flight 10, pick up the new merch that we have just released. Spreadshirt are apparently doing a 20% off discount over the next few days. So yeah, thanks for liking these videos and subscribing to what we do. We could not do this without you. So how are things going with Ship 37's flight partner, Booster 16? Well, on Monday evening, a booster transport stand was moved into the ring yard and it was soon moved into Mega Bay 1. The next day, as the door opened, it was revealed that Booster 16 had indeed been lifted onto that transport stand. Now, it was soon moved out of the bay and made its way towards the rocket garden next to Booster 17, Booster 12 and Ship 20. While it was still settling into its new parking space, workers could be seen manually rotating Booster 12's grid fins. This, as a reminder, was the first ever caught booster, so we watched this one closely hoping that SpaceX will never scrap it. Rotating the grid fins is, of course, usually done so that they get a better view of them from the ground when entering or leaving the Mega Bay, meaning it was likely heading in there for some attention. Later in the afternoon, Booster 12 did indeed begin rolling for the first time since it was moved here in January. It was moved and parked in the ring yard for a few hours and then rolled into Mega Bay 1 later that evening. Within the early hours of Thursday, Thursday morning it had been lifted off the transport stand, but a hiccup it seemed, with it quickly being placed back down. Later in the afternoon, the Mega Bay door was closed, but with its transport stand leaving shortly after, Booster 12 would have been moved to one of the work stands. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this old booster. Will it be cleaned up for display somewhere, or will they do the unthinkable and just discard it? Don't you do it, SpaceX. Now, speaking of scrapping hardware, the old SN2 test tank from way back in 2020 has also just gone on a bit of a journey on Friday afternoon. It appears to have been parked right behind test tank 16 located in the scrapyard. Yes, that likely makes the fate of this old tank a little more evident. This tank was first installed here in 2022 after a successful cryogenic test campaign years earlier, so it has remained one of the oldest pieces of hardware still around. It's been made useful all this time though as a water tank supplying the village, but with Starbase now becoming its own city, there is likely a more permanent solution on the way. So at the launch site, let's head over to the new pad. The liquid oxygen quick disconnect hood has been installed now, of course, so it all looks nice and uniform compared to the one that they had already installed on the methane side a few weeks ago. The entire booster support bunker in general is starting to look incredible now. Thanks to Shaun working with us here, heading out into the crazy heat to take a lot of these pictures, we can see the shielded electrical lines all coming up into the central location in the support bunker and then being forwarded to their various locations. Some of these pipes are already making it as far as the moving quick disconnect assemblies. Then there are these huge pipes. We suspect that SpaceX are going to use these to purge the booster support bunker with nitrogen gas so that they never risk an explosive atmosphere building up here. Keep in mind, some of the systems in this bunker are responsible for handling the insane pressures of the Raptor startup gases. We still think that the full bunker will eventually be fully covered up with the metal shielding with some access hatches for the crew at strategic locations, so this should all be coming. The flame trench wall close by has grown even larger now, with the ramp sections continuing up to the top at nearly the same height as the launch mount deck. That meant that the team had to design these rather creative cutouts for the water deluge manifolds. That'll soon be on the other side as well. Just before they were covered up, we could clearly see that a lot of these smaller pipes being installed were heading towards the methane quick disconnect. Now, closer to Highway 4, the foundation of this new building is being completed as well, and as the structure started to be assembled, Starship Gazer caught the name, Mega Bunker. Sometimes with these buildings you do need to whack it with the persuasion hammer just to get everything in place correctly. Over to the production site, the Gigabay foundations have hit a new milestone. The area closest to the Star Factory has been dug down far enough this week that all the tops of the piles could be fully cropped off. The next step, of course, was to pour a thin sacrificial concrete pad so that the crew had a good working surface to start constructing the rebar skeleton that will reinforce the pile cap. Late in the week, the second pile drilling rig from here was moving away as well, but surprisingly this wasn't taken off site. Instead, it headed towards the air separation unit plant close to the launch site. The crew there have been hard at work grading the dunes and adding gravel to prepare for the next step. So let's head over to Massey's to check on the updates after the Ship 36 explosion. Thanks to RGV aerial photography, the newest views show that the concrete bunker has now been poured and cured with formwork already being removed. Here, towards the front, it seems to have a single elevated double door with stairs for access, and it'll be entirely encased in concrete with just the roof waiting to be tied in with rebar and then poured. The trench over here also has formwork being installed for the concrete walls, with the old precast trenches being torn out all the way back over to where the oxygen and nitrogen inlets used to be. You'll also notice over here 2 new stands for subcoolers, so we can now confirm that they do intend to increase their loading capacity on the oxygen side of the tank farm. This means that they are doubling the capability with spaces for 4 subcoolers instead of just 2, so they will be able to load ships a lot faster. The new ones delivered to the site that I had mentioned last week have already been lifted and installed into the methane side, so the 2 that were previously used for methane and kept on site will now be reused to upgrade the oxygen side. Now, what about the static fire stand itself, where most of the rapid disassembly took place? Before diving into that, a huge thanks to Surfshark VPN sponsoring this video and making what we do possible. A virtual private network you can think of like a passport to an internet without boundaries. Like what I experience a lot, I'll bet you are frequently getting blocked due to your location. It is like hitting a wall, and the sites that I think seem to be getting worse at this are news sites that are blocking viewers outside their country of origin. Well, Surfshark has got you covered because you can simply make your PC or device pretend that it is in any country that you need. You just switch your online location, hit refresh, and bam, you are in. That's great not only for restrictions on social media or news platforms, but also for unlocking entertainment that may not be available to you. It's not just about smashing through all of these walls though. Surfshark is terrific for keeping your online data and logs under wraps. After all, even the ISP providing your internet connection will have some logged information about your activity. Added to that, I think it is most useful when using public Wi-Fi. It'll drastically minimize the risks associated with public connections while traveling, just as one example. That is because it is all fully encrypted. Speaking of traveling, price discrimination is also a thing. You may be getting charged more for stuff just because of your location. With this, you can ensure that you are seeing how prices may vary from place to place. Yes, there are so many great reasons to check Surfshark out, and just with the one subscription, you can use it across all of your devices at the same time. So secure your privacy now and get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just head to surfshark.com/Marcus or use the code Marcus at checkout to get 4 extra months for free. You can also scan the QR code there on screen. Thank you, Surfshark. So back to the updates around the Massey static fire stand, do you notice these 2 new rectangular steel trusses? These were previously being constructed at the Sanchez area and are speculated to be a much larger and more robust ship quick disconnect gantry structure for the next generation ship design. Similar to everything that we are seeing at Pad 2, I can't wait to see all these new upgrades in action. I must say, a lot of people still seem quite saddened after the events of Ship 36's destruction, thinking that this was going to delay the Starship program a great deal. It has certainly delayed the final Block 2 vehicles from flying, but there has been a bonus here too. SpaceX has been able to almost instantly get started on all of these next generation upgrades. Before the explosion, they wouldn't have been able to start any of this until Ship 38 had had its static fire anyway, so in actual fact, we are likely seeing them accelerate the Block 3 flight timeline depending on how quickly Pad 2 is fully up and running. Hopefully this has all been a bit of a short-term pain, long-term gain sort of deal. So over here, Booster 13's recovered aft section from the bottom of the ocean has been gradually disassembled. Yes, they have been removing the Raptor engines, which has revealed some quite neat features. A rather intriguing one is this small, almost unremarkable protrusion in the cylindrical part of the gimballing Raptor engine shielding. That's there for a very good reason, as otherwise one of the turbo pumps of the engine would collide with the shielding. In fact, you can even see the inlet of the turbo pump here on the left side, where the crew on site had cut away part of that shielding ahead of its removal. Also shown off is the ball socket that they have at the top to ensure that the shielding completely covers any gaps, regardless of the gimballing position in flight. Now, late in the week, the Italian Space Agency's president shared that they signed a first-of-its-kind agreement with SpaceX that will see them launch multiple payloads to Mars on Starship designed to carry commercial payloads. Mentioned here are experiments on plant growth and weather monitoring with radiation sensors on board. While speaking about the first mission to Mars with Starship, that first uncrewed flight at the end of 2026 now has Elon feeling less confident, it seems. I mean, if they nail every single milestone from this point on, it could perhaps be possible if they scream along, but breathing room to prepare for an uncrewed commercial mission over the next 3.5 years seems more likely. So yes, after almost 5 months aboard the International Space Station, NASA and SpaceX's Crew 10 mission was wrapping up after the arrival of Crew 11 late last week. Here we had NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayres, JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, and cosmonaut Kirill Peskov were here the other day talking about their mission as it closed off. Now, these days I find this quite a sad affair because NASA is obviously planning to deorbit the International Space Station over the next 5 years, given its age. That This means that everybody leaving here are quite likely to never return again. This incredible international collaborative monster of a project has been active now with crew for almost 25 years, and given that there is no new replacement planned other than potential commercial options, well, it's going to be sad to say goodbye to the ISS. Anne McLean put it very nicely here, saying that the ISS is obviously one of the biggest feats of international collaboration in history, and politically this was a huge ask as plans came together to construct it 40 years ago. With so much political tension right now, we need these sorts of projects to bring us all together. So yeah, let's hope we do get to see it all continue commercially in a few years' time. Vast are doing big things, obviously, and the Haven demo is now undergoing electromagnetic compatibility testing. A lot of this hardware is being presented now, so that is great to see. These tests in particular are checking that all of the onboard avionics are protected from signal interference during its transport, launch, and obviously spaceflight. They also need to make sure that the radios on this space station are fully compatible with SpaceX's Dragon. As Anne said, what we can do when we work together is absolutely remarkable, so let's hope the future commercial funding from various sources allow these stations to be as successful moving forward. After the entire crew spoke so beautifully, they closed off with the change of command handing over there to Crew 11. Late this week, it was time to return home. The 4 boarded Crew Dragon Endurance and they undocked. Now, if you think that SpaceX's coverage of that undocking was awesome, which it was as you can see, check out the incredible footage of that in action right here by Sen, released just last night, all captured in terrific 4K resolution too. So yeah, Dragon is set to re-enter the atmosphere and splash down just a few hours after this video goes live. Now, it was just a little quieter this week for Falcon 9. There goes the Starlink Group 1030 mission on Monday in the early hours of the morning from Slick 40. 28 satellites stacked on top there for that nighttime flight. Booster 1080 was on its 21st flight for this one, and just read the instructions was downrange for the catch. All very routine. That was actually it for the week for Falcon 9. Saying that, the second ever Falcon 9 mission for Amazon's Kuiper constellation has probably launched within hours of this video going live. Well, assuming that it didn't get bumped again. There also looks to be a big string of Starlink launches this coming week, so it's going to be a busy one for Falcon. So, Rocket Lab was back with some never-before-seen launch action. They were launching another one of the QPS satellites in the Harvest Goddess Thrives mission, but what was unique was a new camera perspective. Electron had launched from Pad B at Rocket Lab's New Zealand launch complex, and launch number 69 for them in total. Another beautiful view of the vehicle passing max Q, and soon after there was the stage separation. Take another listen to that process.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
I've had a lot of questions on that lately. Yes, sound doesn't travel in a perfect vacuum, but what we're hearing is all the vibration moving through the structure. Now, what I hope you have already noticed is the brand new angle of the Rutherford engine here lighting up. This is magic, and it's certainly a better quality view from Electron than we have ever seen. Peter Beck mentioned that these same cameras are going to be flying on their next much larger rocket Neutron too, so yeah, it's going to be incredible to see what they capture. Speaking of Neutron, in Virginia, where Rocket Lab's new launch pad at Wallops Island is, this is almost ready for its first launch. They shared this video recently showing the water deluge system in action, and they are set to open the pad in the coming weeks. This is very exciting because Rocket Lab are still saying that they hope to have Neutron flying by the end of the year. Later in the week though, you've just got to see this. Rocket Lab published this video of the Archimedes engine performing a full flight duration static fire test lasting for about 2 minutes and 35 seconds. You can clearly see the engine, especially around the nozzle, frosted away there thanks to the regenerative cooling from the cryogenic propellant. Look at those mark diamonds. This is certainly one of the most gorgeous engine plume views that I've ever seen, and similar to Raptor, this burns oxygen and methane to produce that beautiful blue exhaust. I can't wait to see these in flight for the first time. Back to this mission though, there was the fairing jettison revealing the QPS payload, and soon after, another previously unseen perspective of the second stage battery jettison. Once those batteries are depleted, of course, they just discard them to lower the total weight of the second stage. Less mass means more overall performance. So yeah, at about 9 minutes in, the kick stage separated away to take over, and later on we got this video posted watching it there drift away. Soon after, there was the satellite deployed within the hour. Now, keep your eyes out for the next Vulcan launch, which should be coming up in just days. ULA will be conducting the very first national security mission for the US Space Force. Now that Vulcan has successfully performed and reached orbit twice, that means it is now certified officially to begin launching the backlog of national security space launches. Speaking of Vulcan though, remember when Dream Chaser was going to launch on it for its second mission? Yeah, what on earth is going on with Dream Chaser Tenacity? After all, we were watching it going through testing for launch well over a year ago now. Well, finally some more updates are appearing. The spacecraft is currently undergoing final certification work along with testing. Now, it's all mainly focused on its software and propulsion systems. The software has yet to be tested end to end, and given all the issues that NASA has previously had with Starliner, they have been cautious throughout this testing process, and that's a good thing, of course. NASA recently stated during a press briefing that they will be ready when Sierra Space is ready to fly, but we also learned that Dream Chaser's propulsion systems haven't been officially certified yet. The various teams involved are still working on getting them approved for launch. Dream Chaser is using RP-1 and hydrogen peroxide to power the spacecraft's 24 thrusters. That's because they wanted to use a propellant system that didn't use hypergolics. They want people to be able to approach the thing on the ground without needing to suit up in hazmat gear like we see with the secretive X-37B, which obviously does use hypergolic propellant. The propulsion has been a big challenge for Sierra Space to get right. It is looking, at this point at least, like NASA are going to request a demo mission first rather than have the first mission go directly to the space station. What they would do is get Dream Chaser to position itself just close enough to the ISS to perform all the required tests, and that should mean that they can check how viable it all is before flying another mission to dock and deliver cargo. It's all taking a long time though, and of course the immediate question is how long will this process take? Like I said earlier, the ISS is expected to be deorbited in the next 5 years, so if it takes another year or two running through all these tests, how would Sierra Space be able to fulfill their contract? As a reminder, that contract is to deliver at least 7 Dream Chaser cargo missions to the station. Right now, that is looking pretty unlikely unless we can see some big movements here soon. What do you think? So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and make sure that you are still subscribed here so that we get to keep making them. If you missed this one, check out our video right here. So many interesting comments from you on all that, and thanks a heap for asking so many great questions. I almost need to do a follow-up on that one. Thanks for watching all this way through too, of course. That is about the best way that you can help the channel. Have a great week, and I will see you all in the next video.